Why does silence feel like such a threat? Why does every moment of stillness become a battlefield with yourself? Have you noticed how the world is always rushing, always speaking, always filling the air with something? Music, notifications, endless chatter, the white noise of our collective distraction. What are we so afraid of finding in the emptiness? Tonight, I want to talk to you, the ones who carry a tired heart, who have given too much, listened too long, and forgotten the sound of your own voice. The ones who have tried to fit in, to be loved, to be useful, until your very self felt like it was dissolving. This is not about loneliness as punishment. This is about solitude as liberation. It's about finding the sacred, terrifying gift of being with yourself when the world is allergic to silence. If this message stirs something in you, share your experience, subscribe, comment, and help this channel reach others who are quietly suffering, quietly searching.
The noise is everywhere. We are born into it, baptized in television, cradled by smartphones, rocked to sleep by podcasts and playlists. Our culture promises that noise will save us from ourselves, that if we keep busy enough, entertained enough, we'll never have to face the rawness inside. But silence is not emptiness. It is the place where everything begins. Jung warned that modern people fear silence because, in it, the shadow speaks. In the hush, all that is denied and exiled inside us comes alive. And so, we run. We scroll. We consume. We fill our schedules until collapse seems kinder than stillness. There is a deep, almost ancestral anxiety that if we sit in silence, we might discover something unbearable, our wounds, our disappointments, the truth of our own needs. But avoidance is not healing. Our world's addiction to noise is the symptom of a deeper sickness, the fear of meeting ourselves. Every society has its drugs. Ours is distraction. But noise is not just what we hear. It's what we think. The inner critic, the echo of parents, teachers, lovers, society itself. How much of the noise within you is even your own? We internalize the world's terror of stillness, and we wear it like a second skin. It seeps into our nervous system, shaping how we see ourselves. It's easier to scroll than to sit with the ache. But every time you run from silence, you run from yourself. Have you noticed how exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor? That to be busy is to be valuable. Even our pain is noisy. We post it, share it, decorate it, rather than listen to its quiet plea. There is a different way, but it demands courage. A courage to sit, to listen, to let the noise recede until you can finally hear the whisper beneath it all. Think about this. When was the last time you allowed yourself to hear your own heartbeat without interruption? To feel what arises in the space between your thoughts? To ask what your pain is truly trying to teach you when you stop numbing it with noise?
There is a gulf between being alone and being in solitude. Loneliness is the hunger for connection that is not met, a wound where love should have been. Solitude, on the other hand, is the bold, sometimes painful choice to step away from the crowd to finally see yourself. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." Society sells us the idea that to be alone is to be incomplete, defective, unloved. But this is the language of manipulation, the grammar of dependence. True solitude is a rebellion. a refusal to measure your value by how much you are wanted, used, or needed by others. In solitude, the performance ends. The mask falls away. It is a slow unlearning of roles: the pleaser, the fixer, the martyr. What remains is just you, and there in the quiet ache, something new grows, a self that is not built for applause, but for truth. The difference between loneliness and solitude is the difference between a prison and a sanctuary. The first is imposed, the second is chosen. Have you ever chosen yourself fully without apology? The world will try to shame you back into participation. It will say you are cold, distant, ungrateful. It will weaponize your fear of being left out. But solitude is not a withdrawal from love. It is the soil where true connection can grow. For how can you ever be met if you never meet yourself? How can you be seen if you are always performing? Solitude demands honesty. You will face the emptiness you have tried to fill with others. You will grieve what was lost, what was never given, what you gave away to be accepted. But if you stay, if you hold steady in the quiet, a different kind of intimacy appears. The intimacy of self-recognition, of wholeness without witnesses. Every notification is a reminder. You are being watched, evaluated, measured. Social media is a marketplace of attention, and your pain, your longing for connection, is the currency. We are told we must always be available, emotionally open to others, instantly responsive, endlessly giving. But what is lost in this constant connection? Machiavelli knew that the deepest form of control is to make people dependent. Modern life perfects this art, not with threats, but with dopamine and FOMO. When you are always on call for others' needs, you become a tool, a vessel for their projections, a mirror for their emptiness. Your time, your silence, your soul, all are sacrificed at the altar of being liked, needed, or simply not forgotten. There is a particular violence in being used as an emotional tool. To exist as an object for others' validation is to lose the thread of your own being. The constant ping of notifications is not connection, it is conditioning. You become anxious in silence, twitchy in absence, addicted to the next reply. But beneath that anxiety is a profound grief, the grief of self-betrayal. We were not meant to be always accessible, always visible, always giving. The hunger for validation is bottomless. The culture of instant connection exploits this hunger, monetizes it, and calls it love. But it is not love. Love requires boundaries, respect for silence, and the capacity to be alone. So ask yourself, whose voices fill your silence? Who profits from your exhaustion? What would happen if you stopped performing, stopped being available, stopped letting the world decide your worth? This is how you become emotionally bankrupt. Your silence is not just yours. It is colonized by the needs and noise of others. The result? Burnout. The haunting sense that you are never alone, but always lonely. It is a silent violence. And yet, there is another way. Imagine, just for a moment, stepping back. Imagine disappearing, not as defeat, but as reclamation. Nietzsche taught that sometimes you must become a stranger to the world to become familiar with yourself. Absence is a language few know how to speak. It is a statement. I am not here to be consumed. My value is not in my availability. My presence is not a product to be traded for acceptance. When you deliberately choose absence, You disturb the systems that profit from your exhaustion. You shock the people who depend on your self-betrayal. The silence you create is not an empty threat. It is a field of potential, a charged space where you can finally listen to your own needs, your pain, your forgotten dreams. Sometimes, the world will punish your absence. You may be called selfish, cold, ungrateful, but every act of healthy disappearance is an invitation for others to meet you on new terms, or not at all. In this way, absence is not just withdrawal, it is the birthplace of new boundaries, new power. Absence is not only about leaving, it's about returning to the essence of who you are without distortion. When you step back, you create a vacuum, and in that emptiness, the truth rushes in. You may see who actually values you, who respects your limits, who only stayed because you served a need. You may feel grief, but it is a clarifying grief. The loss of what was never yours, and the return to what always was. Your own voice, your own soul. Choosing absence is also an act of mercy. Mercy to yourself, who can finally rest. Mercy to others, who are forced to confront their own emptiness instead of filling it with you. In that rupture, everyone is invited to grow. Real solitude is brutal at first. It peels away your distractions. It confronts you with the raw wound of being alive. Your longing, your losses, your hidden rage. But in the fire of silence, something ancient awakens. The self beneath all stories. This is the beginning of individuation, as Jung called it. The birth of an identity that is not borrowed, not manipulated, not inherited. Here you meet your shame without running. Here you sit with your loneliness until it becomes wisdom. In the quiet, the masks you wore to survive begin to dissolve. What emerges is a fragile authenticity, a quiet courage that was drowned out by the world's demands. Solitude is not an escape from life, but a return to it. It is the deep well where meaning is drawn. You rediscover the music of your own thoughts, the integrity of your own silence. You begin, slowly, to respect your limits, not as walls, but as sacred ground. In solitude, you are not abandoned. You are born. The path is not linear. There are days when the silence feels heavy, when the past returns, when you ache for someone to witness your pain. But in solitude, you learn to witness yourself, to become the loving presence you always sought. You begin to see your suffering as the soil for transformation, not as a curse, but as a calling. And slowly, the person you meet in the silence becomes worthy of love, not for what they give, but for who they are. This is the quiet revolution of self-respect. It is the return of your voice, your boundaries, your dignity. Are you willing to risk everything for the chance to meet yourself? We live in a culture terrified of silence and allergic to true solitude. But the way out of exhaustion, manipulation, and self-betrayal is through the door of your own quiet. When you choose solitude, you are not running away. You are returning. Not to the expectations of others, but to the sanctuary of your own being. Let the world misunderstand you. Let them call your silence strange, your absence threatening. That is the price of authenticity. The reward is real peace. Not the peace of having nothing to do, but the peace of no longer running from yourself. If you feel this message, let it be your permission. Share your story in the comments. Subscribe and help build a community of people who choose depth over distraction, solitude over performance. Together, we can reclaim the healing, terrifying, beautiful power of silence. You are not alone in your solitude. This is where rebirth begins.